Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all enjoying your day so far, and would you believe it, against all the odds, the CDL have finally confirmed when this season is actually going to be kicking off. A Kickoff Classic in just a couple of weekends time, then followed shortly after by the season launch, the opening weekend, the Atlanta FaZe home series in effect on February 11th through the 14th. Going to be explaining in detail today exactly how the schedule breaks down and some of the intricacies of this, right? Fan voted show matches, 2021 season details, and this interesting group selection show question mark. I'll do my best to break down exactly what is going on in the coming minutes here. Intrigued to hear your thoughts on this in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new, as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. Now everything is launching, lots of news I'm sure to follow over the coming weeks, and when the CDL starts you're certainly not going to want to miss anything. COD League say the following, announcing the Kickoff Classic. Join us January 23rd, 24th for a special 1 year anniversary of the Call of Duty League as well. I think the 24th was the date that it kicked off this time last year. They also then confirm it, get ready to fight for the call. Opening weekend of CDL 2021 season is set for February 11th through to the 14th. This is kind of in line with the timeline that I was expecting here, hosted by the Atlanta FaZe. So this is effectively the first home series of stage 1. So there's 5 stages in the season. Every stage consists of 3 home series, which is group play single round robin, which then determines the seeding for the playoffs effectively of the stage at the end of those that 4-week period, I imagine. We'll look at the end of the video exactly what I imagine the schedule is going to look like for the entirety of the season, but this is what is happening here in the near future. But many questions about exactly what this Kickoff Classic means. Do these matches actually count for something legitimate? Does not seem like that's going to be the case. As Octane says though, interestingly, super happy us players finally know the schedule, saying that even the players didn't know this was actually going to be a thing before they announced it just a couple of hours ago. Supposedly the ownership groups and the CDL teams knew, but maybe they hadn't all passed it on to their players. But yeah, I mean, Octane a little bit frustrated that he didn't know before the fans. But well, this is exactly how it breaks down. Kickoff Classic in a couple of weekends time, thankfully. Opening weekend then, which as I say, I believe, and it is, the start of the first home series of stage 1. So an interesting article I'll leave a link down below from Charlie Intel explaining some of this in a little bit more detail. Fans will have a major say in the matchups we see at the Kickoff Classic. The voting for this is already underway. Effectively, the matches are already decided. The voting is, well, unsurprisingly, as we'll look at in a second, very much in favour of the matchups that are the spiciest, that have the most drama. We were talking not too long ago the fact that, well, some of the OpTic guys, I'm sure a number of the players more generally weren't too happy with the fact that last year at the launch weekends, matches that actually counted for the season matches were, well, effectively decided by the CDL for the sake of storylines. This season is exactly the same thing, but the fans get to vote on them instead, but they actually don't count towards season standings, right? So these Kickoff Classic matches are effectively just scrims, just showcasing what the teams can do, but I'm sure the teams are still going to go hard and still going to try. And well, if someone gets 3-0 bopped off the main stage, of course it's online, then well, there's still going to be some questions being asked about whether they can turn their fortunes around for just a couple of weekends time when the season is actually going to kick off. So yes, fans will have a major say in the matchups we see at the Kickoff Classic. We get to choose who Dallas Empire play, who Atlanta FaZe play, and then also who the OpTic Chicago play, and teams who don't win their poll will still compete at the Kickoff Classic. So even if your favourite team doesn't finish first in their poll, you will still see them in action. So every team is going to be playing in some form or another, but the matches that these teams will be playing are going to be determined by these polls we will look at in a second. Then just a couple of weekends after that, the season actually does begin on February the 11th, which I believe is a Thursday. We will look at that in just a second here. So OpTic Chicago, Green Wall, it is your time. Vote below on who you want us to face for the CDL Kickoff Classic held on January 23rd, 24th. So effectively the CDL decided which teams could be in the running here, and this was, well, going to be an obvious one from start to finish. Los Angeles Thieves, of course, that matchup being pretty important. I saw a couple of people replying like, okay, choose Toronto because it will be an easier matchup for us to win, but well, the result of this doesn't matter. So I'm sure a lot of people want to see OpTic versus Los Angeles Thieves at that kickoff launch weekend. And the same thing here for Atlanta FaZe. So well, their options were Mutineers, Los Angeles Gorillas, and Seattle Surge. I think Gorillas should actually have 2 R's right here. That kind of stuff always catches my eye. But Seattle Surge is the one I voted for. But well, Mutineers winning this for now. Then maybe you guys can change the fate if you would so like to. As well, I'll link everything down below. As always, Dallas Empire then as well. Who wants the smoke at the CDL 2021 Kickoff Classic? Ravens, Paris Legion, or the New York Subliners, right? Especially given the fact that Subliners versus Dallas Empire is a phenomenal storyline this season. I imagine Dallas Empire will get the better of this matchup early on in the season, but Priestahh, having won the World Championship last year on the Dallas Empire, now gets to face them again at the very first weekend of the season. Of course, as I say, it doesn't count for anything specific, but there are some other matches which certainly do count. We'll have a look at exactly how the group play is being determined for those in just a second. It was ILLey says, you know what has to be done. Minnesota launch weekends, V2 from last season. Of course, all this stuff is is going to be online. But this is where a lot of heads have really been turning regarding this concept where teams get to draft what the other group is going to be for their opponents. So, well, as it says right here in this article, I'll leave a link down below. During the Kickoff Classic, the CDL will feature a unique group selection draw show, which will see a special snake draft format that will allow teams to select the team which will be placed in its next ranked opponent's group. This means the Dallas Empire will be able to select Atlanta FaZe's first Group B opponent and will continue down the order of teams based on their 2020 CDL positions. So of course, Dallas Empire winning the World Championship last year, Atlanta FaZe in second place, they are going to be the two teams that slot into this group play, and as COD Gamepedia says, to our understanding, the top two teams will take it in turns to select a team to be placed in the other's group. So there's two real ways they could do this, and well, I'll try and explain exactly what is going on right here. So this is effectively what happens. There's 3 weekends of home series. So there's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I believe there's going to be 2 matches on each day, and over 3 weekends of that, so well, effectively 12 match days over 3 weeks, that every team is going to play every other team in their group, and then you're going to get to a point where, okay, we have some seeding, we can seed all the teams from either group into a bracket, and then do that for the playoffs at the end of the month, effectively. But in order to determine who's in each group, the actual teams get to decide who is in their opponent's group. This is pretty interesting, right? So supposedly, as COD Gamepedia say, because Dallas and FaZe are number 1, number 2 seed from last season, they get to go in Group A, Group B respectively, and then Dallas gets to decide first up who they want to put in FaZe's group, right? And it's pretty interesting. They could of course put OpTic in, probably the strongest team right now that isn't Dallas and FaZe, so I imagine maybe Dallas would want to put OpTic in FaZe's group. At the same time, you could say that, well, if Dallas have a really good matchup against OpTic, they think they can take him down, and maybe they have a bit of a harder time with Los Angeles Thieves or something, then maybe chuck Thieves in FaZe's group, and then FaZe will kind of think, okay, well, I should probably put OpTic now in Dallas's group. There's a lot of potential mind games that could be done right here. I've only filled in the top of it, as you can see, but it seems what COD Gamepedia are suggesting is that they will effectively do this the whole way down, right, and they will seed each other's groups all the way, and possibly at the end of stage 1, when we have a champion, then, well, I said maybe the new number 1, number 2 seeds based on that previous stage, whoever makes the grand finals and whoever wins it, then gets seeded in a similar way, and they get to determine what the group is going to be for the other teams in this kind of snake draft kind of situation. So they can choose, well, they can try and choose bad matchups for the other team, and maybe good matchups for them if it's at all possible, but of course both teams will be trying to do the same thing. So pretty interesting to see. The alternative here really, which I kind of thought that maybe they would go down, is that, okay, Dallas chooses the first team, FaZe chooses the first team, and then maybe Los Angeles Thieves gets to choose the next team, right? So I kind of drew one up like this, a little bit uglier than that one I just did, but it's very possible they could do this route as well. Seems like maybe they're just going down the route where Dallas and FaZe get to choose the entirety, effectively, of who is going to be in the other group, but it's possible that Dallas could choose OpTic, FaZe then choose Los Angeles Thieves in here, then LA Thieves choose London, OpTic choose Florida, this kind of stuff, and it could go down in a similar fashion, but it seems COD Gamepedia are suggesting this is going to be the way it's going to be this upcoming season, which does create some questions, right? Like, it's pretty interesting, as well, Greg says in reply, I guess they got tired of all the feedback from folks saying matches rigged for storylines. Of course, well, the CDL not deciding what the matches are going to be anymore, but as Frisky Orphan says, it actually might create even more storylines, right? The fact that you've got guys like Dallas, guys like FaZe, for the first event, at least for the first stage, choosing who's going to be in their opponent's groups, effectively deciding what the matchups are going to be, and well, potentially if Dallas do decide to throw OpTic into FaZe's group at that launch weekend where they're going to do this bracket draw, then well, we might see that matchup delayed for a little bit, and then when it does finally happen, potentially at the season stage 1 playoffs, then well, we could have a very spicy affair on our hands. But that's kind of well, trying to do my best to explain exactly what's going on there. Hopefully that helped, and also to talk about exactly what the schedule is going to be in its entirety for next season. So as Royal Ravens say, it all kicks off on 8 p.m. on the 23rd, at least that's Greenwich Mean Time. In Eastern Time, that means 3 p.m. Pacific Time, that's 12 p.m. So that seems to be the start time, roughly 3 p.m. Eastern for this launch weekend on that date. And well, as you can see, this is kind of what I put together to explain how the season is probably going to be. So this is the launch weekend, 23rd, 24th. Then you've got the stage 1 that kicks off 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th. Then we have a few days off at the start of the week, then straight back to it again. So I believe this is how it goes. We have the 3 home series, the first one being like hosted by FaZe, even though it's all online, so it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. But the home series are going to be hosted by different teams. Then after all these 3 matches, or after all these 3 weekends of matches, then we're going to get some seedings based on the groups, and then that's going to get seeded into an elimination bracket, effectively like it was for the World Championships. I don't know how many days that's going to be taking place over, maybe 3, maybe 4, maybe even more than that, who really knows. But this is the end of stage 1, then I imagine we get a week and a half or so off, and then straight back to it for stage 2 the next weekend. So I imagine 18th, 19th, 20th, and then 21st of March, roughly, is going to be the start of stage 2, and then it continues to snake all the way through. I couldn't be bothered to draw the entire thing, but hopefully that kind of paints a picture of what's going on going forwards, and I'm certainly intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below on whether you think think this is a good step? Do you think some of these decisions are a little bit questionable? Would you have liked the league, of course, to start a little bit earlier than it is? We've still got roughly a month, really, until the actual proper season kicks off, but at least we do have some matches coming up in a couple of weekends' time, and I'm sure they're going to be some entertaining stuff to talk about as a result. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. Really helps out the YouTube algorithm to know you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well, and I'll grow the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always, take care, and I will see you next time.